Bandeham Shri Guru Shiyatha Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sangrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivishkam Vitam Scha Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhistam Supurakam Gurganara Sesha Sambhoshitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipunam Shri Rupa Patanagam Govinda Bidam Ujwalam Bharatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Mande Vishwagurun Shah Divyat Bhagavat Prem Noe Bija Pradam Devam Divyatanum Suchandabaranam Balarka Chelan Shitam Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Varanam Vairagya Vidyam Buddhim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Varam Bandetam Shivaram Madeka Sharanam Yashishvara Shridaram Vanshakopatarubyasya Kripa Sindhu Bhyevata Patitanam Pavenibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratabhishe Namah. We're reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. This with translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupad. This is Adi-lila chapter 7, the Pancha-tattva, Lord Chaitanya, and 5 features. And I'll begin with verse number 73. Krishna mantra hoite habe samsara mochan, Krishna nama hoite pabe Krishna racharan. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, one can obtain freedom from material existence. Indeed, simply chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one will be able to see the lotus feet of the Lord. In his Anubhashya, Sri Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami says that the actual effect that will be visible as soon as one achieves transcendental knowledge is that he will immediately become free from the clutches of Maya and fully engage in the service of the Lord. Unless one serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead Mukunda, one cannot become free from fruitive activities under the external energy. However, when one chants the holy name of the Lord offenselessly, one can realize a transcendental position that is completely aloof from the material conception of life. Rendering service to the Lord, the devotee relates to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in one of 5 relationships, namely Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, or Madhurya, and thus he relishes transcendental bliss in that relationship. So those are Shanta as neutrality, Dasya as a servant, Sakya as a friend, Vatsalya as with the parental relationship, and Madhurya as a lover. Such a relationship certainly transcends the body and mind. When one realizes that the holy name of the Lord is identical with the Supreme Person, he becomes completely eligible to chant the holy name of the Lord. Such an ecstatic chanter and dancer must be considered to have a direct relationship with the Lord. According to the Vedic principles, there are 3 stages of spiritual advancement, namely Sambandha Gyan, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Sambandha Gyan refers to establishing one's original relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Abhideya refers to acting according to that constitutional relationship. And Prayojana is the ultimate goal of life, which is to develop love of Godhead. Prema Pumarto Mahan. If one adheres to the regulative principles under the order of the spiritual master, he very easily achieves the ultimate goal of his life. A person who is addicted to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra very easily gets the opportunity to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. There is no need for such a person to understand the grammatical jugglery in which mayavadi sannyasis generally indulge. Sri Shankaracharya also stressed this point. Nahi rakshati dukrin karane. Simply by juggling Simply by juggling grammatical suffixes and prefixes, one cannot save himself from the clutches of death. The grammatical word jugglers cannot bewilder a devotee who engages in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Simply by addressing the energy of the Supreme Lord as Hare, and the Lord himself as Krishna, very soon situates the Lord within the heart of the devotee. By thus addressing Radha and Krishna, one directly engages in his lordship's service. The essence of all revealed scriptures and all knowledge is present when one addresses the Lord in his energy by the Hare Krishna mantra, for this transcendental vibration can completely liberate a conditioned soul and directly engage him in the service of the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu presented himself as a grand fool, yet he maintained that all the words that he had heard from his spiritual master strictly followed the principles stated by Vyasadeva in Srimad Bhagavatam. Anarto pashamam sakshad bhakti yogam adhokshaje lokashya janato vidvams chakre satvata samhitam. The material miseries of a living entity, which are superfluous to him, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the mass of people do not know this, and therefore the learned Vyasadeva compiled this Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is in relation to the Supreme Truth. One can overcome all misconceptions and entanglements in the material world by practicing Bhakti Yoga, and therefore Vyasadeva, acting on the instruction of Sri Narad, has very kindly introduced Srimad Bhagavatam to relieve the conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya. Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master instructed him, therefore, that one must read Srimad Bhagavatam regularly and with scrutiny to gradually become attached to the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. The holy name and the Lord are identical. One who is completely free from the clutches of Maya can understand this fact. This knowledge, which is achieved by the mercy of the spiritual master, places one on the supreme transcendental platform. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu presented himself as a fool because prior to accepting the shelter of a spiritual master, he could not understand that simply by chanting one can be relieved from all material conditions. But as soon as he became a faithful servant of his spiritual master and followed his instructions, he very easily saw the path of liberation. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra must be understood to be devoid of all offenses. The 10 offenses against the holy name are as follows. 1. To blaspheme a devotee of the Lord. 2. To consider the Lord and the demigods to be on the same level or to think that there are many gods. 3. To neglect the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To minimize the authority of scriptures, Vedas. 5. To interpret the holy name of God. 6. To commit sins on the strength of chanting. 7. To instruct the glories of the Lord's name to the unfaithful. 8. To compare the chanting of the holy name with material piety. 9. To be inattentive while chanting the holy name. And 10. To be attached to material things in spite of chanting the holy name. So here, this is in Mahaprabhu is talking with the mayavadi sannyasis, and they ask him, well, the duties of a sannyasi are to know about and speak of the Vedanta Sutra, which is the summary of all the Vedas, and then. But that's a very high topic, and Mahaprabhu said that my spiritual master considered me a fool, and he told me that I wasn't qualified for that study, but that he told me that simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, I would obtain all perfection. So actually Mahaprabhu's, he was known as Nimai Pandit. He was known as a great learned scholar when he was young, when he was younger, and he had many students. But here, he's presenting himself. He's presenting himself in a different way to the mayavadi scholars, the mayavadi sannyasis, because Mahaprabhu is saying to them basically, you're not qualified to understand the Vedanta Sutra. But my spiritual master said I'm a fool and I should just chant Hare Krishna. So he's presenting himself in such a way to get the idea across to the mayavadi sannyasis that you have to take the devotional service. Your understanding of the Vedanta Sutra is superfluous. It has no meaning. And the real meaning of understanding the Vedanta Sutra is the commentary of the Srimad Bhagavatam. That really explains what is the nature of the Vedanta Sutra. So here, Srila Prabhupada, the verse was very simple. Mahaprabhu said his spiritual master told him, you are a fool. He said, you are not qualified to study Vedanta philosophy, and therefore you must always chant the holy name of Krishna. This is the essence of all mantras or Vedic hymns. So that instruction is very simple and direct. But then Srila Prabhupada gives a long commentary about what it means to chant Hare Krishna, being free of offenses, how one should understand that one has an eternal devotional relationship with Krishna. All this is explained in the purport, but the verse is very simple. Mahaprabhu just says, my spiritual master said I was a fool and I should just chant the holy name and don't worry about all this study of Vedanta philosophy or Vedanta Sutra. Then I'll continue. Krishna mantra hoite habe samsara mojan, Krishna nama hoite pabe Krishna racharan. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, one can obtain freedom from material existence. Indeed, simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one will be able to see the lotus feet of the Lord. In the Anubhashya, Sri Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami says that the actual effects that will be visible as soon as one achieves transcendental knowledge is that he will immediately become free from the clutches of Maya. I believe we just read that. Okay. So that verse we just read. And now I'll continue. Text number 74. Nama binu kale kale nahi aradharma sarva mantra saram nam eshastra marma. In this age of Kali, there is no religious principle other than the chanting of the holy name, which is the essence of all Vedic hymns. This is the purport of all scriptures. The principles of the parampara system, or the line of spiritual masters, the principles of the parampara system were strictly honored in previous ages, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Dwapara Yuga. But in the present age, Kali Yuga, people neglect the importance of this system of Shrota Parampara, or receiving knowledge by disciplic succession. What this means is that people in this age are ignorant of one spiritual master who's in the line of Gaudiya Vaishnavas coming from his spiritual master. People are ignorant that to receive spiritual knowledge, one should have a spiritual master, and that spiritual master should be a qualified person who's received this understanding of devotional service from his spiritual master. In the what is called the parampara, means the line of spiritual masters, and Shrota Parampara, hearing from one spiritual master. The principle of the parampara system, the principles of the parampara system were strictly honored in previous ages, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Dwapara Yuga. But in the present age, Kali Yuga, People neglect the importance of this system of Shrota Parampara, or receiving knowledge by disciplic succession. In this age, people are prepared to argue that they can understand that which is beyond their limited knowledge and perception through so-called scientific observations and experiments, not knowing that actual truth comes down to man from authorities. So people are thinking in this age that they can gain knowledge by science and experimentations. And they don't think of anything about receiving understanding from a qualified spiritual master. They think that's some kind of they think that that's not scientific and it's not actually correct. This argumentative attitude is against the Vedic principles, and it is very difficult for one who adopts it to understand that the holy name of Krishna is as good as Krishna himself. Since Krishna and his holy name are identical, the holy name is eternally pure and beyond material contamination. It is the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a transcendental vibration. The holy name is completely different from material sound, as confirmed by Narottam Das Thakur, Golokar Premadan Harinama Sankirtan. A spiritual name is non-different from the Lord and descends from the Lord's abode. The transcendental vibration of Harinam Sankirtan is imported from the spiritual world. It comes from the spiritual world. Thus, although materialists who are addicted to experimental knowledge and the so-called scientific method cannot place their faith in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it is a fact that simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra offenselessly, one can be freed from all subtle and gross material conditions. The spiritual world is called Vaikuntha, which means without anxiety. In the material world, everything is full of anxiety, Kunta, whereas in the spiritual world, Vaikuntha, everything is free from anxiety. Therefore, those who are afflicted by a combination of anxieties cannot understand the Hare Krishna mantra, which is free from all anxiety. In the present age, the vibration of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the only process that is in a transcendental position beyond material contamination. Since the holy name can deliver a conditioned soul, it is explained here to be Sarva Mantra Sar, the essence of all Vedic hymns. A name that represents an object of this material world may be subjected to arguments and experimental knowledge. But in the absolute world, a name and its owner, the fame and the famous, are identical, and similarly the qualities, pastimes, and everything else pertaining to the absolute are also absolute. Although mayavadis profess monism, they differentiate between the holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself. For this offense of namaparad, they gradually glide down from their exalted position of Brahmagyan, as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Aruya Krichena Paramparam Tata Patanti Ado Nadrita Yushmad Angraya. Although by severe austerities they rise to the exalted position of Brahmagyan, which means spiritual knowledge, they nevertheless fall down due to imperfect knowledge of the absolute truth, because they don't know Krishna and they don't know what is their actual position as spirit souls, eternal servants of Krishna. Although they may rise to the so-called level of liberation, they again fall down due to the latent or the material desires that are still in their heart. Although by severe austerities they rise to the exalted position of Brahmagyan, they nevertheless fall down due to imperfect knowledge of the absolute truth. Although they profess to understand the Vedic mantra Sarva Kala Vidam Brahma, which means everything is Brahman, they are unable to understand that the holy name is also Brahman. If they regularly chant the Maha Mantra, however, they can be relieved from this misconception. Unless one properly takes shelter of the holy name, one cannot be relieved from the offensive stage in chanting the holy name. Ekta bole ek shloka shikaila more Kanta Kori E Shloka Koriya Bichare. After describing the potency of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, my spiritual master taught me another verse, advising me to always keep it within my throat, or to always chant this, always regularly remember that and say this. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nastyeva, Nastyeva, Nastyeva Gatiranyata. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nastyeva, Nastyeva, Nastyeva Gatiranyata. For spiritual progress in this age of Kali, there is no alternative, there is no alternative, there is no alternative to the holy name, the holy name, the holy name. So it repeats. There is nothing else except the chanting of the holy name. It repeats that. Repeats, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way than chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name. So it's repeating something 3 times for emphasis to make you understand. For spiritual progress in this age of Kali, there is no alternative, there is no alternative, there is no alternative to the holy name, the holy name, the holy name of the Lord. For progress in spiritual life, the Shastras recommend meditation in Satya Yuga, sacrifice for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu in Treta Yuga, and gorgeous worship of the Lord in the temple in Dwapara Yuga. But in the age of Kali, one can achieve spiritual progress only by chanting the holy name of the Lord. This is confirmed in various scriptures. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many references to this fact. In the 12th canto it is said, Kalera dosha nade rajan asti yeko mahanguna kirtanadeva krishnasya mukta sangha param vrajet. In the age of Kali, there are many faults for people who are subjected to many miserable conditions. Yet in this age, there is one great benediction. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one can be freed from all material contamination and thus be elevated to the spiritual world. The Narada Pancharatra also praises the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra as follows. Trayo Veda Sad Angani Chadamshi Vivida Sura Sarva Ashta Sharanta Stam Yatschanyat Apivanmayam Sarva Vedanta Sararta Samsararnava Tarana. The essence of all Vedic knowledge, comprehending the 3 kinds of Vedic activity, Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, and Upasana Kanda. The chandas, or the Vedic hymns, and the process for satisfying the demigods is included in 8 syllables, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. This is the reality of all Vedanta. The chanting of the holy names is the only means to cross the ocean of nations. Similarly, the Kali Santarana Upanishad states, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. These 16 names composed of 32 syllables are the only means to counteract the evil effects of Kali Yuga. In all the Vedas it is seen that to cross the ocean of nations, there is no alternative to the chanting of the holy name. Similarly, Sri Madhvacharya, while commenting upon the Mundaka Upanishad, has quoted the following verse from the Narayana Samhita. Dwarpariyar Janar Vishnu Panchara Trais Tu Kevala Kalo Tu Nama Mantrena Pujate Bhagavan Hari. And in Dwapara Yuga, one could satisfy Krishna or Vishnu only by worshipping him gorgeously, according to the Pancha-tattva system. But in the age of Kali, one can satisfy and worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari simply by chanting the holy name. In his Bhakti Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami strongly emphasizes the chanting of the holy name of the Lord as follows. Nanu Bhagavan Namatmaka Eva Mantra tatra vikshena nama shabdari alankrita Sri Bhagavat Srimad Rishibis Chahita Shakti Visheshaha Sri Bhagavata Sama Atma Sambandha Vishesha Pratipadakshas Cham Tatra Kevalani Sri Bhagavan Namani Api Nirapekshani Eva Param Purushartapala Parjanta Dana Samartani Tato Mantresha Namato Pi Adika Samarte Labde Katam Dikshari Apeksha Uchati Yari Api Swarupato Nashti Tatapi Praya Svabhavato Dehari Sambandena Kadarya Shilanam Vikshipta Chitanam Jananam Tatschak Sankochi Karanaya Srimad Rishi Prabritibir Atarchana Marge Kvachit Kachin Maryada Stapiyasti. Srila Jiva Goswami states that the substance of all Vedic mantras is the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Every mantra begins with a prefix, Nama Om, and eventually addresses by name the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By the supreme will of the Lord, there is a specific potency in each and every mantra chanted by great sages like Narad Muni and other rishis. Chanting the holy name of the Lord immediately renovates the transcendental relationship of the living being with the Supreme Lord. To chant the holy name of the Lord, one need not depend upon other paraphernalia, for one can to chant the holy name of the Lord, one need not depend upon other paraphernalia, for one can immediately get all the desired results of linking with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It may therefore be questioned why there is a necessity for initiation or further spiritual activities in devotional service for one who engages in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. The answer is that although it is correct that one who fully engages in chanting the holy name need not depend upon the process of initiation, generally a devotee is addicted to many abominable material habits due to material contamination from his previous life. In order to get quick relief from all these contaminations, it is required that one engage in the worship of the Lord in the temple. The worship of the deity in the temple is essential to reduce one's restlessness due to the contamination of conditioned life. Thus Narada, in his Pancha-tattva Vidhi, and other great sages have sometimes stressed that since every conditioned soul has a bodily conception of life aimed at sense enjoyment, to restrict the sense enjoyment, the rules and regulations for worshiping the deity in the temple are essential. Srila Rupa Goswami has described that the holy name of the Lord can be chanted by liberated souls, but almost all the souls we have to initiate are conditioned. It is advised that one chant the holy name of the Lord without offenses and according to the regulative principles. Yet due to their past bad habits, they violate these rules and regulations. Thus the regulative principles for worship of the deity are also simultaneously essential. So also what we're understanding is that first of all, initiation is necessary because one has to receive the holy name from a spiritual master. Otherwise, if one hasn't received the holy name, one cannot properly chant it. So in order to receive the holy name, one should receive the holy name from the qualified spiritual master. Then here, the point that Srila Prabhupada is making is that it's not just it's not just enough to chant the holy name if one is not understanding that life is about serving the Supreme Lord, that one is an eternal servant of the Lord. So to bring one to proper consciousness, it is also said that along with initiation into the chanting of the holy name, one receives initiation into Gayatri mantra to engage in service to the deities and to cook for the deities, etc. So these are all activities that go together. Therefore, we always talk about, and receiving the holy name is enough for a person. But if one is not pure, how will one properly chant the holy name? So in order to come to that level of complete engagement, then one goes on and engages in activities of serving the Lord in association with other devotees. So, Eagyapana nama loy anukan, nama loite mora branda hoilaman. Since I received this order from my spiritual master, I always chant the holy name. But I thought that by chanting the holy name, I had been bewildered. So Mahaprabhu is saying, my spiritual master called me a fool. He said I was not qualified to understand the Vedanta Sutra and to engage in these kind of studies, which you do. He's talking to the mayavadi sannyasis. He said I wasn't qualified. So he told me to always chant the holy name. Then Mahaprabhu said, but after I was chanting the holy name over and over, I felt I had become bewildered. So I spoke to my spiritual master. And his bewilderment means that he is developing symptoms of love of Godhead, and that of Krishna Prema, and that is bewildering him. So he's more or less saying to my spiritual master, what kind of a mantra have you given me? Darya darite nari hoilama unmata hasika ninachi gai jaiche maramata. While chanting the holy name of the Lord in pure ecstasy, I lose myself, and thus I laugh, cry, dance, and sing, just like a madman. Tabe darya dori mane korilun bichar Krishna name jnana chana hoila amar. Collecting my patience, therefore, I began to consider the chanting of the holy name of Krishna had covered all my spiritual knowledge. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hints in this verse that the chants of the holy name of Krishna, one does not need to speculate on the philosophical aspects of the science of God, for one automatically becomes ecstatic and without consideration immediately chants, dances, laughs, cries, and sings just like a madman. Pago hoilanami dharya nahimane eta chinti nivedilun gurur charane. I saw that I had become mad by chanting the holy name, and I immediately submitted this at the lotus feet of my spiritual master. So Mahaprabhu said, Pago means a madman. I've become a madman by chanting this holy name. So what kind of a mantra have you given me? And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as an ideal teacher, shows us how a disciple should deal with his spiritual master. Whenever there is doubt regarding any point, he should refer the matter to his spiritual master for clarification. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that while chanting and dancing, he had developed the kind of mad ecstasy that is possible only for a liberated soul. Yet even in his liberated position, he referred everything to his spiritual master wherever there were doubts. Thus, in any condition, even when liberated, we should never think ourselves independent of the spiritual master, but must refer to him as soon as there is some doubt regarding our progressive spiritual life. And Mahaprabhu continues, Kiba mantra dila gosai kiba tarabal japite mantra korila pagal. So Mahaprabhu is talking with his spiritual master. He says, my dear Lord, what kind of mantra have you given me? I have become mad simply by chanting this Maha mantra. So what kind of a mantra have you given me? It's making me like a madman. So what Mahaprabhu is showing, that he has developed a stage of love of Godhead, and this is the result of chanting the holy name. So he says to his spiritual master, what kind of a mantra have you given me? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu praise in his Sikshastika. Yugayitam nimeshena chakshusha prarishayitam shunyayitam jagat sarvam Govinda virahename. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. It is the aspiration of a devotee that while he chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, his eyes will fill with tears, his voice falter, and his heart throb. These are good signs in chanting the holy name of the Lord. In ecstasy, one should feel the entire world to be vacant without the presence of Govinda. This is a sign of separation from Govinda. In material life, we are all separated from Govinda and are absorbed in material sense gratification. Therefore, when one comes to his senses on the spiritual platform, he must become so eager to meet Govinda that without Govinda, the entire world becomes a vacant place. So we say, earlier we heard Abhideya, Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. So Sambandha means that everyone has a relationship with the Lord. It means we are all eternal servants of the Lord. Abhideya means to act in that relationship, to engage in devotional service. And Prayojana means that the goal of all this is to develop love of Godhead. So Mahaprabhu is saying that I had developed these signs of love of Godhead, and I was thinking I had become like a madman. So I asked my spiritual master, what kind of a mantra have you given me? So Mahaprabhu is explaining about Sambandha, the relationship with the Lord, Abhideya, the process or the way to serve the Lord, which is Bhakti Yoga, to engage in devotional service. And 3, that the goal of life is to develop love of Godhead. So Mahaprabhu is showing and talking to his spiritual master that he had developed this love of Godhead. We cannot imitate that. Mahaprabhu is giving this in a very nice way. He is explaining to the mayavadi sannyasis that the goal of chanting the holy name is to develop love of Godhead. Okay. Okay. Ashaya nachaya more koraya krandan eta shuni guru hase bolila bachan. Chanting the holy name in ecstasy causes me to dance, laugh, and cry. When my spiritual master heard all this, he smiled and thus began to speak. When a disciple very perfectly makes progress in spiritual life, this gladdens the spiritual master, who then also smiles in ecstasy, thinking, how successful my disciple has become. He feels so glad that he smiles as he enjoys the progress of the disciple, just as a smiling parent enjoys the activities of a child who is trying to stand up or crawl perfectly. So. Krishna Nama Mahamantrena, Krishna Nama Mahamantrera, Krishna Nama Mahamantrera, Eta Swabhav, Jai Jape Tare Krishna Upajaye Bhav. It is the nature of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra that anyone who chants it immediately develops his loving ecstasy for Krishna. In this verse, it is explained that one who chants the Hare Krishna mantra develops bhava, ecstasy, which is the point at which revelation begins. It is the preliminary stage in developing one's original love for God. Lord Krishna mentions this bhava stage in the Bhagavad Gita. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti madva bhajanti mam buddha bhava samanvita. I am the source of all spiritual material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this perfectly engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. A neophyte disciple begins by hearing and chanting, associating with devotees, and practicing the regulative principles, and thus he vanquishes all of his unwanted bad habits. In this way, he develops attachment for Krishna and cannot forget Krishna even for a moment. Bhava is the almost successful stage of spiritual life. So it's a beginning stage of love of Godhead. A sincere student orally receives the holy name from the spiritual master, and after being initiated, he follows the regulative principles given by the spiritual master. When the holy name is properly served in this way, automatically the spiritual nature of the holy name spreads. In other words, the devotee becomes qualified in offenselessly chanting the holy name. When one is completely fit to chant the holy name in this way, he is eligible to make disciples all over the world, and he actually becomes Jagat Guru. Thus the entire world, under his influence, begins to chant the holy name of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Thus, all the disciples of such a spiritual master increase in attachment for Krishna, and therefore he sometimes cries, sometimes laughs, sometimes dances, and sometimes chants. These symptoms are very prominently manifest in the body of a pure devotee. Sometimes when our students of the Krishna conscious movement chant and dance, even in India, people are astonished to see how these foreigners have learned to chant and dance in this ecstatic fashion. As explained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, however, actually this is not due to practice, for without extra endeavor, these symptoms become manifest in anyone who sincerely chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Many fools, not knowing the transcendental nature of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, sometimes impede our loudly chanting this mantra. Yet one who is actually advanced in the fulfillment of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra induces others to chant also. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains, Krishna Shakti Bina Nahe Taras Pravartad. Unless one receives special power of attorney from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he cannot preach the glories of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. As devotees propagate, that means unless one is qualified, unless one receives mercy from the Lord, one cannot give the Maha Mantra or Krishna consciousness to others. And in the case of our acharyas like Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, Govinda Maharaj, like this, we're considering, we understand that they have this power of attorney. All acharyas, they will, well, one who can properly spread the Maha Mantra is someone who has received, is empowered by the Lord. As devotees propagate the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the general population of the entire world gets the opportunity to understand the glories of the Lord, the glories of the holy name. As devotees propagate the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the general population of the entire world gets the opportunity to understand the glories of the holy name. While chanting and dancing or hearing the holy name of the Lord, one automatically remembers the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and because there is no difference between the holy name and Krishna, the chanter is immediately linked with Krishna. Thus connected, a devotee develops his original attitude of service to the Lord. In this attitude of constantly serving Krishna, which is called bhava, he always thinks of Krishna in many different ways. One who has attained this bhava stage is no longer under the clutches of the illusory energy. When other spiritual ingredients such as trembling, perspiration, and tears are added to this bhava stage, the devotee gradually attains love of Krishna. The holy name of Krishna is called the Maha Mantra. Other mantras mentioned in the Narada Pancha-tattva are known simply as mantras, but the chanting of the holy name of the Lord is called the Maha Mantra. So I'm going to stop for today, and tomorrow we'll continue. Well, tomorrow is is Lalita Saptami. Tomorrow is Saturday. So on Monday I'll continue with the reading. But tomorrow, Saturday is Lalita Saptami, and Sunday is Radhastami. So we'll be celebrating those very special days here in our temple, and the program will be in the morning, about 10:30 or 11 in the morning. So now we'll chant Hari Haraya. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jaravaya Nama. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jaravaya Nama. Jaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Jaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinatha Maranaman. Giridhari Gopinatha Maranaman. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Ganadhara Sri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Ganadhara Sri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Rasa Raghunath. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Rasa Raghunath. H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan. H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jaite Vignana Shabista Puran. Jaite Vignana Shabista Puran. H.I. Gosai Jar Muitaradas. H.I. Gosai Jar Muitaradas. Tasabar Pada Renu Mora Panchagras. Tasabar Pada Renu Mora Panchagras. Tader Charana Sevi Bhatta Sanivas. Tader Charana Sevi Bhatta Sanivas. Janame Janame More Ambilas. Janame Janame More Ambilas. H.I. Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas. H.I. Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash. Nitya Lila Korila Prakash. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Narothamodas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Narothamodas. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. We'll start again. Jayom Vishnupad Paramansa Paravajaka Charyashta Tara Sadashi Shimad Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayom Vishnupad Paramansa Paravajaka Charya Ashtatara Sadashi Shimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayom Vishnupad Paramansa Paravajaka Charya Ashtatara Sadashi Shimad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Garanga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishordas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhaktivedanta Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Marga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhattadash Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Premsigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Harshivasadi Shri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Vishvavaranya Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupad Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Ki Jai. Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Saparshada Shriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Shri Kuladvip Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat Ki Jai. Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Seva Ashram Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Go Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Ganath Go Srila Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Guru Garanga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Gaur Ramanande Hari Hari Bol. Okay.